All right, we're back. Let me count this down. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Lovers Podcast. Today on the podcast, I am joined. Hold on, I'm going to start that again. Sorry, Alfie. Sorry, Alfie.
Yeah, don't worry.
I'm going to start that again. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Real Lovers Podcast. My name is Marley Silverbrand, and today on the podcast, I am joined by a really great friend. We met on Twitter. He runs the movie ranking space on Twitter. If you see that Twitter space like pop up on your feed, you should join that. Alfie, welcome to the show.
Hey, Marley, thanks for having me.
I'm always glad to talk movies with a fellow movie lover like yourself. So, how's your day going today?
It's been good. It's been good. So, watch a couple movies, and yeah, that was pretty much it for
Yeah,
today.
yeah. One of those movies is the movie that we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about The Man Who Sleeps. It is the 249th film on the Letterboxd Top 250. This series that I continue to do. I've only done one episode of it so far, but I plan on watching every single one of those movies. And Alfie, thank you for joining me today for that.
Absolutely, of course.
But yeah, but before we get into that, we've also been watching other movies. Alfie, do you want to start off with what we've been watching?
Yeah. Well, I watched two movies aside from the one we will be talking about. So I watched Knock at the Cabin, and I watched Empire of Light.
Mm-hmm. What do you
I
think
know
of
you've seen. Um, I kind of didn't like either of them. uh, but they're kind of in the same situation because I thought they were, you know, they look beautiful at least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard the same thing about Empire of Light. I actually saw Knock at the Cabin 2. Not TOO, not 2. I don't think there's a sequel, but not yet.
I
But
don't think there will. I hope not.
I don't. But like Empire of Light, I've heard kind of mixed like reviews on it. Like obviously, it's like shot by Roger Deakins, so it's it's going to look beautiful regardless. But
Yeah,
from what
yeah.
I
It
hear,
it does. It looks beautiful. I mean, Roger Dickens. He never really misses. So yeah, but and also it's scored by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross, which was also another highlight of the movie. The score.
I
And
didn't know that. That's
Yeah, they are, and it's a great score. I do prefer their score for Bones and All
mm-hmm.
from last year. But yeah, this one was pretty good.
I still
Um,
have I still haven't
yeah.
seen Bones and All yet.
Oh yeah, that one I did like. I do recommend that one.
Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. It's just I don't know. It's cannibalism.
Yeah, it's a little gnarly.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. But before we get into, since we both saw Knock at the Cabin, we'll do that one last. So I'll talk about a movie that I watched like this week. I saw 80 for Brady.
Nice.
I had no idea. I did not expect to love this movie as much as I did, but I absolutely loved like every single second of it because it's like I'm not really the biggest fan of like sports movies. Like I think sports movies are in a way kind of like cliche and boring, but
Yeah.
what I liked about this one is that it told the story of like how I think it was the Patriots. I'm not a big football fan, but based on what the movie told me, this was basically the story of how the Patriots like came back in the 2017 Super Bowl, and but it didn't tell it from the story uh of like the players. It told it from the story of these four old ladies that were fans of Tom Brady, and I just like I know this is like it's supposedly based on a true story, but like I don't know. I just the like that concept of like the story of like fans kind of like going to the Super Bowl to watch like their favorite team. I just think it's really great. Plus the cast is just like top notch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You got Sally Field, which was my highlight. I love Sally Field. I don't think I've hated a single movie that she's been in. Jane Fonda, this is the first time I've seen Jane Fonda like on screen, like at the theater. So seeing her kind of like just kind of do what she does was actually kind of incredible to watch. But what did you are you interested in seeing 80 for Brady, Alfie?
Yeah, I think at some point I will. It's not in my theater, so I unfortunately can't watch it in theaters right now.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's this weird like genre in which they always take these older actors, and they put them like in this uh, probably like the most insipid adventure they could think about,
Mhm.
but they're always so good that they kind of make it work.
Right. Like it's kind of like in that same. I like that you said it's a genre of taking old actors and putting him like and just putting him like in a scene because then you got the Expendables. Expendables are kind of like that. Then I
Yeah.
think what's that one with Morgan Freeman? It's like the older men and they go to
Oh yeah,
Vegas.
yeah. Oh yeah, that movie. I was actually thinking of another movie because I was like, I don't remember how it's called, but I believe Zach Braff directed that movie, and it's with Morgan Freeman, and I believe Alan Alda is in it,
Hmm.
and Michael Caine,
Dang.
and basically it was about them. They wanted, I believe, if I remember correctly, was that they wanted to rob a bank. So, so I was slightly more interesting than usual.
Right. I wonder. I want to see that film because it just seems like absolutely absurd and just I just like I just like elderly people just kind of like doing just like absolutely insane things that they wouldn't end up doing. It's kind of like it's I don't know. It's kind of like they would it's like they wrote this film in like a retirement home and stuff like that. It's like
Yeah,
oh it's like a bucket list type film, like a bucket list.
yeah,
Another good film by two aging
yeah.
stars.
Maybe the bucket list was like kind of the movie that birthed this genre.
Yeah, that's such a good film. I love the bucket
Yeah,
list.
it is great. I wish it was more than just Morgan Freeman, Jack Nicholson. I wish there were like five of them. Like
Right,
there were like like there were like five older actors doing this bucket list movie.
right.
So
It's like
maybe
the
a sequel.
Avengers. It's like the
Yeah,
Avengers.
yeah. Just bring them all together. And yeah, I remember that one with Morgan Freeman who goes to Vegas. I believe with Michael Douglas, is it?
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
Michael Douglas. Yeah,
yeah, yeah. That was fun. That was a funny movie.
yeah. Like speaking of the Avengers, that would be super funny if Marvel just. I want them to just bring all the old Avengers back, and just like when they're super old, and they'll just make another Avengers movie, and
Yeah,
just go on adventures when they're like really old.
yeah. And they're gonna try to like de-age them, and like Irishman style, and it's gonna be terrible, but
Prob-
it's gonna make $1 billion.
let's not do the Irishman style. That's no.
Yeah.
It's like I think I'm good on that one. But yeah, let's move on to a film that both of us watched and what we've been watching. Knock at the Cabin. Alfie, you've expressed on Twitter pretty harshly, in my opinion. Like you're entitled to your opinion. M Night Shyamalan, the newest film from M Night Shyamalan, Knock at the Cabin. He's a very polarizing filmmaker at at this stage of his career.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, what was that?
Yeah, he's definitely very polarizing. And you know what? It's been a week since I watched Knock at the Cabin, and I'm like, I can't. I am a fan of M Night Shyamalan. I actually really like Old a lot, even though you kind of go. Well, when he came out, you went into Twitter and everyone was like, "This is awful. This is stupid," and I was like, "This is kind of a masterpiece." I don't know about you, but yeah, Knock at the Cabin. I don't think as harshly of it anymore as I did when I came out of the theater, but I do still think it's pretty terrible.
Yeah, you read the book that it's
I
based
did.
on, right?
I did.
Like,
Yes.
and I've done like I've read several articles saying that the ending of the movie is basically different than the
Oh yeah, yeah.
it's severely different, and it kind of like does a disservice to the book. Like, would you
I would.
agree with that?
Yes. Yes, I would. I don't know. Can we talk spoilers?
Let's talk. Let's talk a little like spoilers, like like spoilers for the book at least. Like,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So actually, the film it's kind of the same as the book until a certain point.
mhm,
Uh, let's say until a scene where Dave Batista gets locked up in a bathroom.
mhm.
Um, so until that point, it's pretty much like the book. So I was really excited.
Yeah. And,
Yeah, so I was like, "Oh, this is amazing." But then I don't, I don't think that what happened after that, like until the end. I don't think that Shyamalan's choices were very good in that regard. Just because I think that the pretty much like the third part of that story is a lot better in the book, but not only
mhm,
better, but also the book has a very specific thing that it's trying to say, and the movie kind of goes in the opposite direction, so it's a little bit jarring. Well, not
mhm,
a, I it was to me it was really jarring. um so basically in the book it's kind of I guess I would say a little more cynical, or a little bit more like nihilistic towards view towards humanity.
mhm,
And in the movie, it is, I guess, it is kind of hopeful, like a hopeful ending. I don't understand. I've seen some people who are like uh, that they like the ending of the movie better because it was like a happier ending. But I don't really think it was happy in the movie either.
yeah. I would have to agree with you. I thought that the ending was kind of like it. This is like the least M Night Shyamalan ending because if for anyone that doesn't know, M Night Shyamalan is kind of like he's basically kind of wrote himself into a corner over the past like decade where he's kind of the twist guy, where everyone's expecting like when they're watching like his one of his movies is that they're expecting a twist. And uh like Knock at the Cabin like doesn't really have a twist, and it's like it's kind of like what we expected, like from the beginning, and that was kind of something that threw me off. Like I like the film a little bit more than you did, just because I can appreciate M Night Shyamalan. Like when I was watching this film, I like how simple it was. Like it's basically if you it's basically like a film kind of shot all in one location. It's like a bottle film, and I like M Night Shyamalan's like his choices on shooting with wide angle lenses, and just like he doesn't like his films aren't really all that flashy, but he also knows how to like use the camera really well, and make his films look flashy without using special effects. So I appreciated the film like from that aspect. However, speaking of special effects, what do you think of the news footage that they would intercut? Like, Alfie?
Um, I I kind of didn't know what to think about them because I was like, okay, so So here's like an important thing from the book that I think I wish it was a little bit jarring to me because the whole story of the book is very Shyamalan. Like it's like a very kind of story that he would tell. So that's why I was really excited. And I was
Mhm.
like, this if he follows the story from the book, like it's essentially a Shyamalan movie. But I don't know why he changed the ending, to be honest, because it kind of goes like, not only against the book but also against like his usual narratives. And
Mhm.
in the book, so basically this whole footage thing, it was like in the movie that there was this like plagues going on in the world, but all of that was pre-recorded. So um, basically, when these people arrive at the cabin, these things had already happened. So that's kind of like the intrigue that I really like in the movie until a point where you're like, okay, so this is real. So where are we going with this?
Yeah, I think it's also important to note that this is the first film, to my knowledge, that he had a co-writer on. I'm looking that up right now. Michael Sherman, or Michael Sherman and Stephen Desmond.
Yeah, there's like three writers, right?
Yeah, and I think that's kind of something that made me feel like it's like this definitely doesn't feel like an M Night Shyamalan film just because, like you said, like the ending, and I think like him kind of working with new writers might have had that effect, obviously. And I was also thinking about this when I left the theater for Knock at the Cabin. Is I wonder if he had co-writers because this is an adaptation, and we don't really talk about the other adaptation that M Night Shyamalan did. Um, it rhymes with I don't know. I can't think of what it rhymes with, but The Last Airbender. We don't talk about it, but
Yeah.
he kind of suffered with that one. So I wonder if like the studio was like, if you're adapting this, we're gonna have like you're gonna have help. That's basically like what the studio said.
Yeah, maybe it could be. But actually, his previous film, Old, that's also an adaptation from a French graphic novel called
Mhm.
Sandcastle.
Oh yeah,
And
that's right.
yeah, and that one, well, that's a little bit different because Sandcastle didn't really have like a Shyamalan-esque narrative. So I do understand why he changed that,
Hmm.
to kind of make it more his own. So that's why I was surprised that he changed the ending in the book on this one, because this is already like people would have gasped with what happens in the book. And I
Hmm.
think people would have been more excited with what happens in the book. Um,
Hmm.
and this one, I don't know if it was that he was doing with these two co-writers, that it was a lot safer. And I think Shyamalan wanted to say a lot of things in this movie that I don't think came across very well. And it might be that. It might be because he had these two co-writers with him.
Yeah, I think it might be that as well. Another thing, because uh, like one of like the main premise of this movie is that like there's this gay couple is basically they're staying in this cabin like with their adoptive daughter, and they basically get like invaded by like these four individuals. And like I thought that like the entire film was pretty tense, like leading up to like when you said Dave Batista gets locked in like in the bathroom. But the problem that I had with the ending of this film is that like the way this film is kind of treading water with the whole QAnon movement on how people take in information, and like when you see like video of something actually happening, how people
Yeah.
can be influenced. I really like those themes, but the way this film kind of ended, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. How it kind of redeemed like those people. It's kind of like it's basically saying like, oh, like they did nothing wrong and stuff like that. Did you get that feeling at all? Because it's like it felt. it felt a little bit disingenuous, a little bit, where it's just like, oh, QAnon's not that bad, even though they are. But
yeah, I actually had kind of a similar takeaway with that. That's why I guess that was a little bit of the reason why I was very angry at this movie when I came out of the theater, because I think so. Basically, the biggest difference from the film and the book is that in the book you never really know if this apocalypse thing is real.
mm-hmm.
So even until the end of the book, the story ends, and you're kind of like, okay, so they kind of leave you to your interpretation if this apocalypse thing was real or not. There's never any actual like concrete evidence that it's real. And I think that it's weird that Shyamalan changed that, because he does play with that a lot in his films about this, this whole ambiguity of, is this thing happening or whatever? Is this real? Is this a dream? Is this imaginary or whatever? And that's why it didn't work in the movie for me, because first of all, there's these people who, from the very inception of the story, they were always meant to be like a placeholder for the church or a religious group, and as well as in the book. And in this one, I don't know if it's intentional or not, where there are multiple references to this about them being a religious group and them being like, no, I didn't know you were a same-sex couple. I didn't know, like, I don't have any prejudice. I don't hate anyone or whatever. Aside from Rupert Grint's character, I think, for the most part. And I don't know if it was intentional to kind of drive that narrative away from them, or just to like pull, or just to confirm that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, they were right. And I don't know, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way how at the end, these characters, well, Eric and Andrew, they kind of came to this realization that they're like, okay, so this is real. So basically all these people who have been like tormenting us our whole life were right. So it's kind of, I don't know, it was a bit upsetting to me, to be honest.
Yeah, it's like I totally agree with you, and like I said, I loved like what this movie was saying on how, like, when stuff is shown to people, how people will start to believe and kind of like go on their side. Like I think it was like the third news clip. Like Dave Bautista is like absolutely incredible in this film, and I'm kind of one of those people. I'm one of those people that I wasn't really the biggest fan of Dave Bautista. Like, I like Guardians of the Galaxy. Wasn't really the biggest fan of Blade Runner, the new Blade Runner. I thought it was kind of boring, but that's just me, to be honest. But I thought he was absolutely incredible in this film on how he kind of built the tension, like just like even like in the first few minutes of this film with his interaction with the daughter, and just I like the way M. Night Shyamalan shot it too, where he shot really really close up and just made the audience feel as uncomfortable as possible. Just because if I was her, if I saw someone as big as Dave Bautista come up to me and like catch grasshoppers with me, I would feel uncomfortable. Would you, Alfie?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was surprised that he was like I knew the character was a teacher, but still I don't know how I pictured Leonard in my head when I was reading the book. The book that said that he's really like huge, but like I don't know, I didn't picture Dave Bautista or something, or or someone of the like. But I do think he was great in the film. I did like Blade Runner 2049. He does have a small role in it, but I think he did a pretty good job with the little screen time that he had. And I'm not a huge fan of his work in the MCU. I don't think he's either, for whatever. But yeah, with this one, I did. As I said, I was angry with the film when I came out, but I was like, good for him, good for Dave Bautista. He was excellent in this film, and I mean, not to compare him with other like WWE people who came to acting, but I don't think so. I don't think The Rock or John Cena could have played this kind of character. I don't think they could ever do that.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not the maybe The Rock if he actually gets his act together. I don't think John Cena. I've gone on record on previous podcasts where I think John Cena is probably really only good in comedies, and like he
Oh
should
yeah,
stop
yeah,
being
I
in
agree.
dramas. But
I agree. I think he's very funny, but that's pretty much all I think about his acting abilities.
yeah, like he's really good in Blockers. Like
Oh
Blockers is
yeah,
not
yeah, yeah,
Blockers is not really the best film, but I feel like it has some funny moments. But
yeah. And with Dave Bautista, I kind of have like the opposite opinion because I really don't like his work in the MCU. I don't think he's very funny, but
mhm,
so I don't think he really works that much in comedies. I don't think he has like the comedic timing or anything like that. But it's
mhm,
fine because he's a great dramatic actor, which is I think it could be more difficult for other people.
right, and I think M Night Shyamalan really he really let it he let him loose on this film, and like the film really shows up until like the final act. But
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I think that's the case with most M Night Shyamalan films. It kind of like is super strong, and then kind of like just like a wet fart at the end. To be honest, just because it's just
yeah,
because I kind of felt the same way about Old. Like Old like is like a really nice like interesting concept of like people aging like on this island, and then the ending of that was just like M Night. Really, I have to like I want him to succeed so badly, but it's like oh come on.
yeah. It's kind of hard to root for him sometimes. But I do think something that I do think that um, people really overlook. I know like he's not the greatest writer, but I do think he's a great director. He really studies the craft. And I was actually watching a video from an interview he did. I don't know if it was recently with this press tour or when Old came out, and he was talking about on Old how he was trying to like mimic certain camera movements from like Kurosawa and Bergman, and I
Mhm,
was and they kind of juxtaposed the like clips from Old and like Persona, and I believe it was Rashomon, and I was like, I kind of see that, and I think that's why it does look very good, and I mean he always has great DPs behind the camera.
mhm,
Actually, in this film, he had two DPs, and I actually one of them used to be a teacher before when I was living in New Orleans, and I actually took a couple of his courses.
mhm,
And he's pretty great. I'm very happy for him that he's doing like bigger projects now. I think he was working on Shyamalan's show, Servant, the show on Apple, and
mhm,
he shot a couple of those episodes, and now he was co-director of photography in this one with Jerry Blaschke, who had shot also all of Robert Eggers movies. Um, so yeah, I mean, I think it's greatly directed. There's a scene in Knock at the Cabin that I was like, that was incredible, which was um, where Jonathan Groff's character says that so he has a concussion, and there's a part where kind of the light kind of comes from the window and does this like really huge glow like on his face, and he says that he saw this like figure on the light, and actually this is on the trailer, so if you kind of pause that scene, you can actually see someone behind, like I believe Rupert Grint's character, and I was like, that's that was insane to me. That was great.
It's an insane amount of detail too, because it happens so quickly. But it happens so quickly, but the shot lingers in such a slight way that, like, if you are looking, you like, oh wow, like I saw something too. I think that was the same scene with. Was that when? Is that the same scene with Rupert Grint? Like the first.
Yes, I think it was when he was introducing himself to them. I think a little bit after that,
Yeah.
and yeah, there's that. So he was like, so he has a concussion, Jonathan Groff, and he's like, can you guys like lower the drapes or whatever, because the light is kind of on my face. And I think it's when Rupert Grint does that, like try to like close the window or something, and you can see like this figure behind him when the light comes in through the window, and it's scary because you kind of stop it. Like if you watch the trailer, if you stop it, it looks kind of like some kind of character from like Silent Hill or something. It doesn't even look like a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just like all those kind of like subtle scares like that, where and M. Night Shyamalan is kind of like a master at that. Like he showed that a lot with Signs, like just kind of showing showing a little bit of like the aliens. Like he never like actually showed them like full on. It was just kind of like in the background, and I feel like stuff like that is a lot scarier, instead of like having like what is scary like up front and center. But anyways, Alfie, I think we've talked a little bit a lot about Knock at the Cabin. I liked it a little bit more than you did, just because I appreciate the simplicity, but like I feel like you would have changed the ending, and you would have
Yeah, I think I wish, like, I know it would be weird now, like, in years from now, to someone to readapt this book, because it's so very because this movie it's just like the book, like for like 75% of it, and so that 75% I really like. But the moment that there is no ambiguity anymore of what's happening, that's, I think, when it kind of loses steam, which I think that happened with Old as well, when when M. Night Shyamalan's character was like, that he was doing something shady, that he was like doing like surveillance over them. You kind of know there is something happening, that it's not supernatural, so you're like, okay, so now what?
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think the one good thing about Knock at the Cabin is that it took down Avatar: The Way of Water at the box number one at the box office. So
yeah,
any film that takes down James Cameron is number one in my book. So
yeah, and I love that. I think Shyamalan tweeted when the box office report came out, he was like, "Oh my God, I love Avatar so much. I'm sorry, James Cameron." And I'm like, he had 7 weeks. I think that's enough.
Right. Yeah, that's he made $2 billion. Give it to M. Night for a week or two.
And funny enough, since you talk about 80 for Brady, I believe that it almost took that first place. I think it was just like a million difference between 80 for Brady and Knock at the Cabin, which is insane.
Yeah, I think it might actually swap, because 80 for Brady is a football movie, and it would the Super Bowl is coming up, and I think people might prep for that this weekend, but we will see. But
yeah, maybe people were like identifying with these ladies, and they were like, "Oh my God, they're just like me."
they're just like, I'm just like these white old ladies.
Yeah, and Knock at the Cabin, I was like, they kind of just like me, but not really.
Yeah,
like,
but
I was like, those Letterboxd reviews where you're like, that wouldn't happen to me, but whatever.
But speaking of people that are just like me, let's get into our featured review with The Man Who Sleeps.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, that was a really bad transition leading into like what I was gonna like. I'll edit this part out,
Yeah, but
but
this one was it was funny because I was like, okay, so I was thinking that oh my, he's just like me, but I kind of don't want to be like him. So this is kind of scary.
right. Okay, let me just lead into our review, just so I can cut this part out. I'll play like a trailer and stuff like that, but all right, that was a scene from our featured review, The Man Who Sleeps, the 1974 film directed by Bernard Casson. I think that's how I'm probably butchering that. Probably butchering that. Please comment down below.
I probably would too. I'm
Yeah.
not. I used to take French classes a couple years ago, and my teacher was always like, "Your pronunciation is horrible. Like, drop out."
Yeah, I took I did the same thing like in high school, and that was I'm 33 now, so that was a really long time ago. So my French is not really the best.
Yeah, I don't
But
remember any. The only thing I remember from my French classes is how to say apple, and that's because there was this thing our teacher would do that she had this huge trunk with stuff inside. So you kind of have to put your hands in it and grab something and then be like, this is whatever in French.
mhm.
And I took an apple out and I said it. I said the word and she was like, yeah, but what color is it? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm sorry.
It's
So
cool. It's cool.
it's kind of traumatic. So that's why I remember how to say apple.
Right. Well, this film, I'm going to read the synopsis real quick. This film is about a 25-year-old male student in Paris who becomes indifferent to the world around him and subsequently feels a strong sense of alienation and hopelessness. But speaking of people that I can relate to, I felt completely called out when watching this movie. What about you, Elfie?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect because I was like, what is so I kind of just read the little synopsis on Letterboxd and I was like, okay, this sounds kind of um metaphorical for depression. But then I
Mhm.
watched it and I was like, oh, this is not a metaphor, it's just actually about depression.
Right. Yeah, this film uh, the entire time I was just like is just watching like this guy kind of like sitting in his room like just looking up at the ceiling and just like when you it at first like it this film is very mundane. I'll just say that. Like, but I think that's what I appreciated most about it, just because it felt grounded and it felt real. Um, but what did you think about it?
Um, yeah, I was a little bit. It's funny because I usually with these French New Wave movies, I don't know what my reaction is gonna be because sometimes I'm like, okay, so this is kind of garbage and boring, and some of them are like, okay, this is like incredible,
Mhm.
and I don't know about this film. I don't think it's terrible, but I don't think I would be like this is brilliant either. It's like I guess it's very good. That's kind of what my takeaway was, but mostly because of how I think people would feel like watching it. Because there's always I don't know if you have seen like those like meditation videos or audios on Spotify or on YouTube
Mhm.
where they're like, oh, you're important or you deserve to live, everybody loves you, and this one and this one was kind of like the opposite of that. It's like your life is awful, like nobody likes you, you're just laying there and not doing anything because you're terrible. And I was like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah, it's super depressing. Like it's a movie about depression, but it's also very depressing, and like that's why like I DM'd you like when I was when I was watching this. I was just like I feel extremely called out right now because at several points like in this movie, I felt like this guy, like exactly. It felt like this movie was just filming my life, and it's not trying to like kind of bring down like the whole mood of like of this recording, but it's just like I don't know. I could have done, to be honest, like I thought this film was just good as well. I could have done without like the narration. I feel like what this film
Yeah,
was kind of illustrating with the cinematography and just like the shots and like how everything was lit too. Like I appreciated, and I
yeah,
didn't need the narration, but like the narration just kind of felt like you said, it was just like those YouTube videos of just like
yeah.
everything's gonna be all right. And
Did you watch the French original version, or do you watch the dubbed one?
I watched the dubbed one, so I think that was probably
Yeah, I
the
I
bad
watched the
one.
dubbed one too, and I don't know if there was. I don't think there would be any difference, to be honest. Because I mean, um, because I was watching, I didn't know I was watching the dub version until Shelley Duvall started talking. And I was like, okay, so is this in English or? And I don't know. It took me like 20 minutes to realize it was a dub version, and I was, for those 20 minutes as well, I was like, I kind of know this voice, but I don't know who it is. So I Googled it and I was like, oh shit, it's Shelley Duvall. So yeah, that was really depressing. So I was
Yeah,
like, I know this is gonna be really sad.
yeah, it's definitely pretty sad, but I feel like it kind of redeemed itself a little bit at the end, where it's kind of like it's the entire movie. It's basically like I think like the one benefit is that it's not very long. Too, is
Yeah,
that at least you like if it's depressing, at least I don't have to like have to sit with it for that long. It's an hour and 17 minutes, like just under 90 minutes. Uh, but like I said, just way too much narration. I could have done. I think what this film like illustrated that like you didn't really need even though uh, I thought that I don't know. It's just you don't need the narration. That's basically what I'm saying.
yeah, I think yeah they did overuse it, because I mean that's pretty much the entirety of the film.
Hmm.
But I agree with that, because I think it would have been a lot more powerful, I guess, if we kind of just look at him like going through his life, and for people to be like, oh, I do that, or they kind of notice like the little stuff that he was doing without a narration telling me, oh, so he's doing this now because he wants to die, and I'm like, I know, no, you don't
Right.
have to tell me.
Right. This is like film as a medium. It's a visual medium. It's a visual medium. We could see that this guy is down on his like he's cutting himself off from the world. He is like I I wouldn't I'm not sure if like we would call him poor. I don't think like he has like an apartment. The apartment's kind of small, but like
Yeah,
he's
I think she mentions that the narrator was like, he has like 50 francs to live for like a week or so. It was a week or a month, but I was like, I'm not sure if that's a lot or not.
yeah, I don't know if that's a lot either. But uh yeah, it I'm not like as of today, like I checked the letterbox 250. This film dropped off. It was 249, but it's not on the list anymore. And
Oh,
I could kind of see why a little bit, just because it's I don't know. It's like all the like it has a 4.2 average like on letterbox, and most of the ones that I can see like right now are like they're all like 5 stars and people are like super impressed with it. But I can see why people like people like you and me can have like this reaction where it's like this film's draining, like super draining.
yeah, it is really draining. Um, it did remind me of um, of that film that I was telling you about before. Well, it didn't really remind me because it's not a they're entirely different films, but
Hmm.
this film called Man Bites Dog, which is um, it's a different experience, but it's shot very similarly to this movie. So I was thinking about that other film throughout the whole movie. Maybe because I just wanted to think about something else instead of what the narration was saying.
Hmm.
So that was probably why. And I was like, I don't think that this. I don't think these two films are supposed to be like in my mind at the same time, because Man Bites Dog. It's like it's a very nihilistic movie, and it has like a terrible view of like people and society. And it's like, okay, so this guy is like killing people, but like it's okay because people are kind of deserve to die. And I'm like, yeah, sure, I guess.
Hmm.
And this film, I was surprised by the ending of The Man Who Sleeps, because I was fully prepared for him to kill himself at the end.
Yeah, I think we all were at that point, just because of how much of a downer. And I'm kind of glad that it kind of like it's a little bit more uplifting at the end, and it's just it's basically just a visual piece on depression. I'm not sure how long we could talk about this, because it's like I'm not really sure if it has really anything else to say about like depression other than it sucks and
Yeah,
you will come
and
out of it. So I'm like,
yeah, that's kind of what I felt at the end, because I don't like I said, I don't think this movie's a masterpiece. I'm surprised it's so high. It has such a high score in Letterboxd, because I was like, okay, because I saw the score before I watched the film, so I was like, okay, so this is either really terrible or it's just like an absolute masterpiece. And I kind of haven't heard of this movie, so I- I'm not sure. So yeah, what's in? I was like, sure, okay, that was okay.
yeah,
I don't. I agree with you. I don't think it has a lot to say aside from that. As of uh, this guy, he has depression, but and it kind of sucks. He kind of doesn't have a will to live, and then he's like, uh, the movie's like, you'll probably feel the same way, and I'm like, sure, yeah. And then he's like, but that's okay because you're gonna get through it. You can do it. And I'm like, thank you. And then the movie ends.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly how I felt at the end. I just was like, thank you. This is like just a completely just just flat. Just thank you. This is what I needed. Where it's just like, uh, it felt in a way it kind of felt like the student films like in film school, where people were not trying to put down like the filmmakers at all for this, but it's just like it like it just felt very one dimensional, where it's just like this person has depression, or the filmmaker has depression, and he just wants to illustrate it. And I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah,
it did.
it felt like, you know how in movies sometimes when there's like this guy who's a filmmaker and they make sometimes like this fake movie about like an art project, and there's always this guy who's like really pretentious, and I'm like, this is kind of like that fake movie that would play in those kind of scenarios.
Right. Yeah. It's like that's a good way to describe it. But
Yeah.
anyways, what did you think? Talking to the listeners, what did you think of The Man Who Sleeps? Let us know in the comments down below. Alfie, this was fun. I like talking with movies with you like all the time, which is why I join your Twitter space like all the time. Uh, before I get you, before I have you plug like everything, what would you rate The Man Who Sleeps? Like,
Ooh, probably. I'm gonna give it the same score I give Man Bites Dog, and I'm gonna give it a 3 out of 5.
I, I gave it a 4.5, just because I'm like, if a film has like really good cinematography and like I'm kind of like amazed by the visuals, I'll always give it at least a 4.5 out of 5, just because I like visuals. I like shiny stuff. So it's like uh I appreciate the effort, but I don't know. I like 4.5. Like,
Yeah, I'm like thankful for it. I guess it's funny because this movie, so it mostly like really grim narration, and you're like feeling terrible all the time, and then has this little uplifting moment at the end where you're like, yeah, you know what, you're right. There's it reminded me of this. There's always this like Instagram reel, or is it a TikTok reel? I don't remember. Like a soundbite that they were like, "Oh my God, I feel horrible. I want to die," and then the brain is like, "You're kind of being dramatic," and I'm like, "Yeah, you know what? You're kind of right." and that's
right.
kind of like and that's kind of like how this film felt. And it's funny because I watched another film a couple months ago that was kind of like the opposite of using this kind of thing, because it was a movie called They Look Like People, which
Mhm.
was it was mostly about mental illness. That was a great film. That was a great depiction of mental illness. But there's this guy who's like really listening all the time to those um, videos of like, you're amazing, you're everybody loves you. And I believe the dialogue was something like, you're a mountain and nobody can move mountains, something like that. And I was like, this is really lame. And the funny thing was that he was really lame in real life as well, because nobody really liked him. And he had all this confidence, but he was so lame that people were like, I don't care really. And it's funny because they use in that film that really uplifting dialogue, but it still feels kind of like bringing you down a little bit, because it kind of feels a little bit sarcastic when you're listening to it. And this movie kind of does the opposite of that, with using like this really grim, terrible dialogue, and for it to be like, yeah, but you know what, actually, you're allowed, be take care.
Right. I totally agree. It's like I don't know why I gave it 4.5. Sometimes, like, I always like to say, like, on Letterbox, like people are always like, especially when they looked at my top 20 of 2022, they're like, how come you have like this movie so low, or this movie like rated like 3.5, but it's in your top 20? And I'm just like, just because I rated something like low or something high, it doesn't necessarily mean like I like it, or I think it's bad. Like, the rating, I just rate it just to like. Sometimes I just rate it just like because I want to give it a random score and stuff like that, or I just like I just want to get a reaction to. Like, that's also another thing where it's just like I'll rate something 1 star and they're like, how come you rated this? This is like that. This is one of my favorite films. So, like, I guess like what I'm trying to say here is like, read my review, and then you'll be able to see like
Yeah,
what
i
actually.
had I had kind of like the same reactions sometimes. I don't know, people, letterbox, it's weird because people are always like complaining about either the long reviews or the unfunny one-liners, or about the ratings, what ratings people are giving. Because I've had people who like DM me about my ratings on
Mhm.
Letterbox, or like, there's a really popular film that I kind of don't like, which is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Ooh.
Yeah, I really don't like that movie. Like, I thought it was just okay. It's my least favorite of the three Indiana Jones films that I've seen. I haven't seen Crystal Skull yet, but I'm gonna be watching that soon. Um, so
I'll
yeah, I
make.
was like, I don't. I think I gave it like a 2.5.
Oh wow.
The Raiders, which I know, like, I understand it's an unpopular opinion, but I didn't know it was that unpopular that people would DM me about it.
No, To be honest, I would have to agree with you. I think Raiders. I wouldn't. For me, I wouldn't rate Raiders that low. Which, by the way, I think I'm actually doing Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's on. It's like I think it's like 247 on my list. So I'm doing it in about a couple of weeks. And
it's too high.
yeah, uh, but I will have to agree with you. It's not my favorite Indiana Jones movie. I think Temple of Doom is still my favorite.
I love them. I've been doing a Spielberg marathon since January the 1st, where I'm like
Mhm.
I was like I'm gonna sit down and watch all Spielberg films, and
Yeah.
I actually had never seen any of the Indiana Jones films until right January, and I've seen the three of them,
Mhm.
and I was surprised by how vilified I saw that Temple of Doom was, because it was my favorite.
Mhm.
And I mean, I that scene with that dinner scene with the snake, that was
Oh, the
so
monkey
awful.
brains. The
Yeah.
monkey brains.
Well, the monkey
That's
the monkey brains, I was like, okay. Well, that whole sequence really, but the one that I was like, I'm gonna throw up, was that when they like rip open the snake and all the little snakes are like coming out of it. I didn't understand that, because I was like, what is this? I thought snakes lay eggs.
right.
so I
That's
was so I was kind of shocked, like, what? I don't know what's going on, because are these like baby snakes? But why are they acting like snakes can get pregnant? Like,
that's
so that was a little like unsettling, but also I mean, the imagery is really unsettling, and the whole, like, it's awful. I know it's kind of racist, but I do think that Temple of Doom has a lot going on for it aside from that. But I do think people are right that it is kind of racist. But I think Raiders is a lot more racist than Temple of Doom.
oh, for
And
sure, for sure. Raiders is a lot more racist, and I
yeah,
think Temple of Doom has also gotten a lot of like praise recently, especially since Kiki Kwan, with who plays Short Round. Like,
yeah,
uh, I think everyone's starting to like revisit that movie, and they're starting to love it. The scene from Temple of Doom for me that was like super like that had me cringe and just like I was a little bit sick to my stomach is still like the scene uh where they're ripping out people's hearts. I I have like whenever like a chest is shown like on screen, like for me, like in any movie, or like a chest is open in any way, even I know it's fake, but for some reason I have to like look away. That's just how I am. Uh, that should be like a when you guys do the movie rankings spaces, like again that should be like a ranking, like top 5 movies with open heart surgery or something like that.
yeah. I don't. You have. I will assume that you haven't seen Crimes of the Future, right?
I actually saw it. I think I rated it on Letterbox. I might have just logged it just because uh, I thought Crimes of the Future was fine. I was like, it was. I don't know. I thought it was
Yeah.
fine. I didn't
I
really have.
I I really love Crimes of the Future. I think it did make my top 5 of the year last year,
Mhm.
but but it's more of a personal thing, because I do like that Cronenberg does like this huge worlds, and then he's just telling like this little tiny story within this huge world, and then he's like, let's never see this world again.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of just that's how I left the theater. I was just like, I don't want to like experience this anymore. But I had a good time when I was watching it. Well, I wouldn't say a good time, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I thought it was really funny.
yeah. But I haven't even thought about watching like I think it's a Sun. Uh, what's the one that's in theaters now?
Oh,
It's
the
Brandon
sun,
Cronenberg.
yeah. I I didn't watch it, because I mean I think it was in my theaters for like 2 days, But the thing is here is that if a movie, if there's a movie that nobody's watching, they'll just take it off um, the theater. And I was like, I saw The Son had like a screening, and I was like, I kind of don't want to watch it because I've heard really awful things, and I was let me not watch that. And it was there for 2 days.
Infinity Pool. That's what it was. Brandon Cronenberg's like, I don't think it's his debut, but he directed it. I love Mia Goth. But I think I might wait for that one to come on streaming.
Yeah, like, he made a film, I believe, that came out in 2020 called Possessor that I really like a lot. So maybe I'll watch Infinity Pool if it comes to theaters here, because usually those kind of film, like I didn't watch Crimes of the Future in theaters because it never came to theaters. It was just thrown into to movie. They had the rights for it, so they never put films in theaters. They just throw it on their streaming service, and I'm sure that that's what's gonna happen with Infinity Pool. I mean, it still doesn't have a distributor, and it's been out for like 2 weeks now or something.
Yeah.
And I'm okay, so I'm gonna expect it to watch it legally until like probably like October or something.
Oh no.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm just like, I believe if I saw correctly, I think The Whale is in theaters here right now. I think today was like the premiere, but I would need to check that.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Like The Whale's fine. Have you seen it? The Whale's fine. Oh, hold on.
Okay. Yeah. Well,
did you get that same call?
Yeah.
Yeah. My bad. But anyways, Alfie, I can talk with you about movies like all the time. So, where could the people listening to this podcast, where can they follow you so they can talk about movies with you as well?
I mean, yeah. Well, you can find me on Twitter. My ad is @Fonzie_the_Snowman. Well, they can find me on your followers. So yeah, I'm always open for conversation, quote unquote. I like to fight on Twitter. That's no lie. But
you're not alone. You're not alone on there.
Yeah, it's funny because some people sometimes they just take it too seriously. I'm like, man, I just, because sometimes I'm just like, well, when Knock at the Cabin came out, there's a lot of mutuals on Twitter who are like, oh my God, this is so good. And I was like, well, actually it's bad. So, but it was kind of like teasing, and people were like mad, like, then kind of posting like really cryptic shit, like, well, guys, if you don't like something, well, you should just let people enjoy it. I'm like, are you new here? What?
Oh, that's too good. I love those comments where it's just like, it's just like, yeah. If you don't like my take, then you can just keep scrolling.
Yeah,
just keep scrolling.
Yeah, but it's funny because I've been on both sides of the spectrum where I'm like, well, Babylon, for example, I really love Babylon, but I know most people hate it. So I'm just always like, I really like Babylon, but I'm never like this. There's a lot of people out there who are like, this is a masterpiece, and you're gonna see yourself in 10 years, and you're gonna be regretting that you didn't saw this in theaters.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, yeah, I love this movie a lot, but I understand why people don't like it. And sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, I really love Babylon. I like this about Babylon. And people, they don't even like respond to my tweets. So just DM me and then like, actually, that actually was kind of atrocious because this and this and this. And I'm like, I know it's bad. It's like people, like, I really like The Happening.
So, I okay. Here's the thing. I really love. I actually love The Happening too, and I love that there's a resurgence for that film, and people are watching it, and they're actually starting to like it, like a lot.
I know it's. like I know it's dumb, but I kind of watch it as a comedy, so that's why it works for me.
Well, here's the thing. Like after seeing Knock at the Cabin, and seeing Dave Bautista's really great performance, I would love to see The Happening kind of like recast with Dave Bautista and Mark Wahlberg spot. Just because
Yeah,
I would like to
I would
like to
recast
see that
Zooey
film.
Chanel too.
Oh, I forgot that she's in that film. Oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's mostly because I mean, Mark Wahlberg's performance is so bad in The Happening, but Zooey Deschanel was kind of bad too. But she was really just there. You know, it's like, girl, you're in the apocalypse and you're kind of just like moody. Uh, like it seems like you're not thinking about anything. It's weird, and yeah, maybe so. I would love to, how HBO, or I'm not gonna say Netflix, like, or FX, they they would be like, or Apple maybe. Sometimes they take this like movie and they're like, oh my, we're gonna turn it into a limited series or something like that. And I wish that they would like take like these trashy movies and turn it into like this prestige television series. Because I remember HBO a couple of years ago was like, actually we just got the rights for Hellraiser, and we're gonna make a show. And I'm like, okay, so a Hellraiser show on HBO, that's gonna be interesting. And then it never happened. So I would love for someone to be like, I really like The Happening, so I have this great idea to do The Happening again, but as a show, and it's like this prestige TV, and it's like going for Emmys and shit. And I would be like, yeah, well, good for you.
You hear that, HBO? You hear that, HBO? Make Alfie a producer and make this happen.
I would write a TV show on The Happening. I think it's very interesting. I think The Happening is very interesting. But yeah, like, I know I really like it, but I know that people hate it. But it's weird to me that sometimes I'm like, I am really a Shyamalan apologies, honestly. Like, I didn't even hate The Last Airbender. I thought it was bad.
Okay, you know what? We need to save this for another podcast because I feel like I
don't have anything good. Like, I don't have anything good to say about it. But I mean, I've never really watched the show, so I didn't like. I understand why people hate it. It's probably a terrible adaptation. But I was like, okay, so this is terrible, but I don't think this is I wouldn't call this a career killer,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of. I have a lot of things to say about The Last Airbender too, just because I'm kind of like I was just like you when that movie came out. I saw it in theaters, and I didn't see the show first, and I was just like. I went into it just like kind of like expecting like an M. Night Shyamalan film, and I feel like I got that a little bit. Like his shots are there, and just like his style is there. It just felt, I don't know. Hearing him talk about like that movie, like leading up to the release, it makes me like just appreciate just like when people are making films, like they don't know they're making a bad film. Like they're really like he really thought he was making something great, and that's why it's like it's hard for me to like shit on movies like now, just because it's like it's really hard to make a bad movie, and it's really hard. It's just as hard to make a bad movie as it is to make a good movie and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I appreciate people who you're always like on this really terrible films. You see like the filmmakers, and they're talking so earnestly and so passionately about this film that is so horrible, and it does make me feel bad to say that it's bad, because I did have an experience with a film where I told the director that the movie was awful, and he was kind of heartbroken. So, yeah, and I was like, well, it was kind of his fault, but whatever. So yeah, it does make me feel bad. Like I've seen, for example, like interviews with the guy who made the last Grudge movie that came out like 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking so passionately about it and how much he's a fan of the Grudge franchise and how he's seen all the American movies and the Japanese movies and he's read the mangas and how he's played the games and I'm like, this sounds like this movie should be good, but it's not. So I don't understand. But I kind of feel bad for you.
Right? Yeah, it's I'm kind of in that same boat where I don't know. It's just it like people can have takes. That's I feel like as long as like the take is not harming anyone, like to like on a physical level, I feel like the take is fine. But anyways, Alfie, I really love talking movies with you. Everyone go follow Alfie on Twitter. Like, I promise you won't get mad at his takes. Well, at least within the first couple and stuff like that. But even if you get mad at him, have a conversation with him because look what we just did for like an hour. So I'm like,
all I'll say is that I've been having like all these conversations about Knock at the Cabin, and I'm like, okay, like I respect people's opinions, but I'm like, everything you're saying right now that you got from this film, it's not there. You're kind of making it up, so I don't know what to tell you.
Right. But
yeah,
anyways,
there were people who were like, oh my god, this film, it's so great, it's so hopeful, and it has an amazing ending. And then there's people who are like, I love this movie because the ending is not happy and it's so dark and grim. And I'm like, both of you can't be right.
Right. Like, film is subjective, but not that subjective.
Yeah, I know like everyone thinks but I think there has to be a limit, when you're like, okay, so you two have like totally different visions, the total opposite visions of this. So it's probably that one of you is kind of reading something that it's not there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But anyways, give Alfie a follow. All of the links will be in the description or description box or whatever we call it now on YouTube or Anchor or Spotify. It'll be in the description. Click it. Give him a follow. You can also follow me at Marley Loves Film on Twitter. You can hear me tweet about Fast and the Furious. Probably going to be very.
Me, we can, if you like fighting, I can fight with you, or we can talk about Colin Farrell, and that'd be nice. So yeah, but I also don't fight all the time, so
yeah.
Let's
have a discussion. Like,
I can have serious discussions. It's not always like there's sometimes when I'm trying to be contrarian, like when the Fabelmans came out, I was like, this movie's kind of bad, but I don't think that.
Well, I think it's kind of bad. I think that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's weird that people are like, this. I love this movie. It's about the magic of cinema, and I'm like, this is kind of not about that, but whatever.
Yeah, but Babylon is about the magic of cinema. I'll just end it there. But
yeah,
you could follow this
about elephant shit.
You could follow this podcast on pretty much anywhere where you can listen to this podcast. Give us a rate and review. Let us know how we're doing. I've been Marley Silverbrand, and for Alfie, go watch some movies. Peace.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
All right.
Now,
thank you, Alfie. That was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. I kind of forgot that I was being recorded for a moment.